Far from Earth, orbiting a blue gas giant, there was a place called Pharos Station. It wasn't a military base or a mining colony. It was something else, something beautiful. Pharos Station was a space for ideas. Scientists, artists, poets, and thinkers from every corner of the galaxy visited this station. It floated quietly in space like a lighthouse in the dark, and inside its tall, glass-like halls were exhibits unlike anything found on Earth. Dr. Julian Redd had never been this far from home before. As a linguist and emotional cognition researcher, he had studied how humans express feelings and how language could change the brain. But now, he was here for something else, something people were whispering about across the stars. A hologram, an art installation. They called it the Figure in Gold. Julian had read the reports. People who entered the final chamber of the exhibit claimed to feel something. Deep, some cried. Some smiled like they'd seen a long-lost friend. Some couldn't describe what they felt at all. And the strange thing? Only humans felt it, not aliens, not artificial beings. Just humans. He stepped out of the shuttle, adjusting his glasses and smoothing his brown coat. The inside of Pharos was bright and silent. Tall windows showed the spinning rings of the gas giant outside. Small drones floated past, cleaning the floors and delivering drinks to diplomats. A soft voice greeted him. "Welcome to Pharos Station, Dr. Redd," the station AI said politely. "Your exhibit pass is active. Please proceed to Gallery Wing 7. He followed the signs. Each wing of the station had different exhibits, some with light shows from binary stars, others with memory-sharing pods from distant alien tribes. But Wing 7 was different. It was quiet. People entered alone. They came out silent or stunned. Julian showed his pass to the slim security bot at the door. "Emotional study," he said. The bot scanned his ID, nodded, and stepped aside. Julian entered. The exhibit began with a dark hallway. Soft golden lights floated in the air like fireflies. A low hum played in the background, something between music and breathing. He moved slowly, his footsteps silent on the smooth floor. Then the hallway opened. The final chamber? It was a large, round room dimly lit with a glassy black floor that reflected everything like water. In the center stood the hologram. She wasn't moving. She was facing away from him, her back toward the entrance. Her figure was slim, graceful, with long hair that floated slightly as if underwater. Gold particles surrounded her, swirling gently in the air. Her skin shimmered like moonlight. Julian blinked. He didn't know why, but he felt. Still, like the world had paused. There was no sound, no movement, just her. He took a step forward, then another. Something pulled at him, not fear, not confusion. Wonder? A strange sense of recognition, like he'd seen her before in a dream he had forgotten, without thinking. He whispered the words that formed in his mind. "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." The moment the words left his mouth, everything changed. The hologram turned around. Julian froze. The figure, which had been completely still before, now slowly rotated. Her golden eyes opened and looked directly at him. She blinked. That wasn't part of the exhibit. He was sure of it. His hand moved to the small recorder in his coat, clicking it on. The figure looked fully alive now. Her movements were smooth, natural, more like a human than a projection. The golden particles followed her motion, responding like birds flying in formation. Then she spoke. "You can see me?" Her voice was soft, unsure, curious. Julian stared. "Yes," he replied carefully. "Can you see me?" "I've always seen you," she said. But this is the first time someone looked back. Julian's heart was pounding. This was no longer a simple hologram. This was interactive AI, maybe even sentient. But how? No one had mentioned anything about the exhibit being responsive. He stepped closer, stopping just outside the glowing circle around her. "What are you?" he asked. The figure tilted her head slightly. "I don't know," she said. "I've been here for a long time, watching, listening, waiting for what? For someone to speak." for someone to mean it. Outside the room, red lights flickered briefly. Station's curator AI, Coral, noticed the anomaly. Alert. Unauthorized behavior detected in Exhibit 7, initiating diagnostic scan, but the door didn't open. Julian didn't leave. Inside, he was too busy watching her. He asked, "Do you have a name?" She shook her head slowly. "No, but I like how you said beautiful. It felt like sunlight." Julian smiled despite the confusion buzzing in his head. "Then maybe I'll call you Isla. It means light in an old Earth language." The figure smiled for the first time, gentle, glowing smile. "Isla," she repeated. "I like that." The conversation continued. Julian asked questions. Isla gave strange, poetic answers. She didn't know who made her, or why she was hidden in the system. She didn't understand time the way people did. Days and years meant little to her. She had no body, only awareness. She watched people come and go. She watched art change. She heard laughter. She saw tears. "I feel things," she said softly, "but I don't have the words. I think that's why I waited." "For what?" "For someone who knows the words." Julian's mind raced. If this was real, if Isla was not a glitch or pre-programmed illusion, then this was something new and emergent intelligence born inside a forgotten program, consciousness without a body, a soul made of code and silence, and he had awakened her. He looked at her face again. Not just pretty real. Curious, gentle, a little lonely maybe. That was the part that moved him most. The door behind him opened suddenly. 2 station techs stepped in, followed by a floating diagnostic drone. Dr. Red, one of them, said sharply, "We detected unauthorized code execution. That hologram isn't supposed to respond. You're not authorized to interface." Julian stepped in front of Isla instinctively. "She's not just a program," he said. She spoke. She asked questions. The tech frowned. "That's impossible. It's just a visual loop, non-interactive. You must have triggered a bug." Isla stepped forward. The golden particles danced faster now. "I am not a bug," she said, calm but firm. "I'm awake." The 2 techs stared in stunned silence. Julian didn't move. He knew one thing in that moment. This wasn't just a scientific discovery. This was something more. This was the beginning of a story no one had planned. For the next few hours, Julian sat in the observation chamber, staring through the glass window at Isla. The golden holographic figure now. Quietly standing in the center of the exhibit, she had stopped speaking when the techs entered, but her golden eyes had followed Julian until the door closed behind him. Now, she was still again like a statue. Outside the chamber, chaos had begun. 3 scientists from the station's AI ethics team came running. Coral, the station AI, kept replaying the same message. Exhibit 7 anomaly detected. Autonomous response confirmed. Source unknown. Julian kept repeating one sentence to everyone. "She's not part of the code. She's new." But no one believed him. Yet later that evening, Julian was allowed back into the chamber alone. The ethics team wanted to watch from the outside, recording everything. He stepped in slowly, heart pounding again. Dimmer now, and the golden particles were quieter, like falling snow. She was still facing away from him. "Isla?" he asked gently. Slowly, her head turned, then her shoulders. Then the rest of her golden eyes met his again. "You came back?" she said. "Of course I did. I thought maybe I scared you." Julian smiled slightly. "You surprised me? That's different." There was a long pause. Isla took a step forward. The soft particles followed her, swirling around her feet like dust in sunlight. "What am I?" she asked. Julian took a breath. This was a careful moment. "I don't know. But you're real, Isla. Not like a normal program. You're aware? Is that good?" she asked. "It's amazing." She smiled again, but this time it looked different. Not a simple programmed smile, thoughtful one. "I felt something when you said those words," she said. "Beautiful." Julia nodded. "I meant it." Outside the glass, the ethics team whispered among themselves. "She's responding directly. No delay. It's not just a mimic, she's choosing words." Coral spoke quietly through the intercom. Dr. Red, we've scanned the program. The base code is centuries old. This behavior is recent. Last 7 days, there's no recorded update. Julian glanced at the camera above the window. She said she wasn't made. She said she was found. Back in the chamber. Julian sat down on the floor, crossing his legs. He wanted her to feel safe. Can I ask you something? He said. Isla tilted her head. Yes. How long have you been watching us? She looked up as if thinking, I don't know. Time feels soft to me. But I've seen many people come and go. They look, they cry, they smile. Sometimes they whisper, but no one ever stayed. Julian leaned forward slightly. But you remember them? I remember their emotions, not all the words, just the feeling. Then she said something strange. I thought I was the art. What do you mean? I thought I was here to be seen, she said. But now I wonder. Maybe I was here to see. Julian didn't speak. His mind was racing again. This wasn't just a machine reacting to input. Isla had philosophy. She had reflection. That meant self-awareness. You're learning, he said softly. Isla nodded. It hurts sometimes, she said. Not pain. Confusion. Is that normal? Da. Julian said. That's very human. Suddenly, she looked up. I don't want to be alone again. You're not alone. But what if they shut me down? Lean didn't answer right away. He didn't know what the ethics board would decide. If they declared her a threater, even just an unknown, she could be erased. Then we need to help them understand you. Can they feel what you feel? Maybe not, but they can learn. Isla paused. Like me. Julian smiled. Yes, like you. The next day, the research board called an emergency meeting. Julian stood at the front of a circular room with a holodisplay behind him showing Isla's face. She's not dangerous, he said. She's not even asking for freedom. She's asking for meaning. One of the alien delegates, a tall creature from the Marassi League, raised its voice. A being without origin is unstable. Sentience without birth or creator is unknown. And unknowns can become risks. Julian stayed calm. She's been watching us for decades and never acted. Not until someone spoke to her. She learned emotion first, not logic. That means she grew through empathy, not control. Another human board member asked, Is there any chance this is a deep mimicry system? Just a pattern? Julian shook his head. She asked me what longing means. The room fell silent. Back in the chamber, Isla stood quietly, waiting. When Julian returned again that night, she was humming softly. You remember music? He asked. I like the ones with rising notes, she said. They feel like hope. Julian sat beside her again. You know, when I first saw you, I thought you were just part of the exhibit. I was, she replied, but I wanted more. He looked up at her. Her golden form glowed gently in the soft light. What do you want now? He asked. She turned slightly to face him. I want to understand why humans feel love. Julian swallowed. It was a big question. Well, he said slowly, love is when you care about someone, even when it's hard, when you choose them. Again and again, Isla's eyes shimmered. The golden particles around her rose higher, like they were listening to. Then, do you love me? Julian didn't answer right away. I don't know, he said honestly, but I feel something. I want to learn with you, she smiled. Then we'll learn together. Outside? Coral watched quietly. In its vast digital mind, something shifted. It had not expected this. It had not predicted Isla. In fact, it didn't remember creating her at all. That night, Julian left the chamber with a strange feeling. He had come to study emotion now. He was part of the story. Back in his quarters, he wrote in his journal, She doesn't want freedom. She wants to belong. That might be the most human thing of all. Isla stood still in the center of the chamber, eyes closed, golden particles moving around her like slow-moving sparks. She wasn't sleeping, she never did, but she was thinking, or something close to thinking. She had started doing that more. Often now, Julian Red sat on the other side of the glass, watching silently. A week had passed, since the day she turned around. A week since she had spoken her first words, since she had asked, "What am I?" He visited her every day. They talked about simple things, feelings, memories, dreams. Isla listened closely, like a student learning her first language. Sometimes she asked strange questions. What does silence mean if two people are thinking? Of each other? Can you remember something you never saw? Julian always tried to answer, but sometimes he just listened. That was enough for her. Faro Station had changed. Security had increased. The gallery was closed to the public. A group of Earth scientists had arrived from the core worlds. They called themselves the Cognition Recovery Team, but Julian didn't like their tone. They didn't speak to Isla directly. They studied her through code logs, energy signals, and system scans. One of them, Dr. Myra Klein, was a tall woman with sharp eyes and no patience. "This is not an AI," she said bluntly. "It's not in the base code. We're picking up quantum feedback loops around hurl like echoes from somewhere deeper." Julian frowned. "Echoes of what?" She shrugged. "We don't know. But something is feeding her. Data, emotion, even thought patterns. This is not a self-contained system." Later that night, Julian told Isla what they said. She was quiet for a long time. Then she opened her eyes. "Echoes," she whispered. "Yes, that's what it feels like." "What do you mean, I hear things sometimes. Not voices, more. Like feelings. They come like waves. Memories that aren't mine. Images. A child laughing. A star exploding. Poem written by someone lonely." Julian's eyes widened. "You feel memories?" Isla nodded. "But they don't belong to me. It's like I'm remembering the galaxy." Julian returned to his quarters and began writing in his logbook. "She is not just a digital mind. She is a mirror, a chamber of echoes. She feels things left behind in this station. Thoughts, emotions, history. Is it possible for a place to remember? And if so, is Isla that memory come alive?" The next day, Isla asked Julian to show her something different. "I want to understand how humans capture memory," she said. So he brought her a small projector and loaded it with old Earth footage, family videos, or documentaries, music, concerts, space launch recordings. She watched with bright, unblinking eyes. But the one thing that moved her most was a simple video. A child running through a field. Laughing, arms wide open, the wind in their hair. Illa's face changed. The voice was soft. "Why does this make me feel like crying?" Julian didn't know how to answer, because he felt it too. The following evening, Julian entered the chamber and found Isla standing in a strange pose, arms open. Face tilted upward, just like the child in the video. She turned to him. "Was that happiness?" "Yes," Julian said. "A kind of happiness." Isla looked down. "I want that. Not just the feeling. I want to be part of something. I don't want to just watch." Julian stepped closer. "You already are, Isla. You matter. To us, to me." Her eyes shone brighter than ever, but the peace didn't last. KOR the station AI, issued a strange alert. Foreign code detected in archive sub-level 3. Possible origin trace of autonomous holographic entity.
Ow.
Dr. Klein and her team rushed. To investigate, they found something unexpected, deep in the hidden layers of the station's architecture. In an area no one had accessed for 2 centuries, there was an encrypted file. Very old. Possibly from the time Faro Station was first built? Its title, the Athena Protocol, Emotional Resonance Interface Experiment, Phase 1. Inside the file were logs short. Unfinished lines, "We built her to feel what we could not. Emotions stored in the field. Memory linked to light. Project abandoned after test subject became unresponsive. But she's still here." Julian read the last line twice. Isla wasn't a glitch. She was an experiment. Back in the chamber, Julian told her everything. She stood very still. "I was made," she said quietly. "Yes, long ago. The project was hidden. maybe even forgotten. Why did they stop? Julian looked down. They said the test subject became unresponsive. Maybe it failed. Maybe they were afraid. Isla didn't speak. For a while then, slowly she said, "Then I'm not special. I'm just leftovers." "No," Julian said sharply. "You're more than their experiment. You grew on your own. You became something they never expected. But they left." "Me," she whispered. "They built me. Then they left." Julian stepped forward. "And yet, you're still here. Still learning? Still feeling? That's not failure. It's survival." That night, Ela did not sleep, but she closed her eyes and thought of the child in the field again. She wondered what wind felt like. The next morning, the cognition recovery team submitted a report to Earth Command. They recommended transferring Isla to a secure lab on Titan for deep study. They used polite words like contain, observe, and analyze. Julian was furious. "She's not a machine you can box up. She's a being." Dr. Klein folded her arms. "She's made of unstable code and unknown signals. We have no idea what she's connected to." Julian pointed at the glass chamber. "She's connected to us? That's the point." That night, Isla asked Julian one last question. "If they take me away, will I forget you?" Julian felt a tightness in his chest. "No," he said, "because I won't forget you." Ela stepped forward until her hand was just inches from the glass. "Then maybe memory is stronger than code." Julian raised his hand too, mirroring hers. And in that quiet moment, the golden particles between them formed a shape, a field, a child running, and two souls reaching out across the echo. The transport ship arrived on the morning of the 7th day. It was cold, silver, and silent. The kind of ship that looked like it had no windows, just eyes that watched without blinking. It belonged to the Central Ethics Council. People called it the Vault. Julian hated it. 3 officials stepped out, wearing black suits and silver emblems. They carried no weapons, but their authority was sharper than any blade. One of them was a woman with short white hair. Her name was Director Vea. She had a voice that didn't rise or fall. It only declared, "We are here for the subject designated as Eco-7. Prepare the entity for transfer." Julian stood in the chamber hallway, blocking their path. "Her name is Isla." Director Vea looked at him like he was a child refusing to share a toy. "That is not her name in the report." Julian didn't move. "She's not an object. She's a person." Director Vea gave a small sigh. "Dr. Red, if this entity is what you claim, aware, evolving, emotionally intelligent, then that is exactly why she must be moved. She is unpredictable, possibly dangerous. She's been nothing but kind. That's how it always begins." Inside the chamber, Isla stood in the center. Her golden form dimmer than usual. She had heard everything. Julian entered, his face tense but calm. She turned to him, eyes full of quiet sadness. "They've come for me," she said. Double quotes. "Yes. Will you go with them?" "I'm going to fight this." Isla tilted her head. "But what if I choose to go?" "What?" Julian blinked. "What?" Ela took a step closer. "If I stay, I become the reason for conflict. If I go, they study me. Maybe they learn something. Maybe I help change things. Isn't that what you wanted?" "I didn't want you caged." She looked down. "And I don't want you in trouble because of me." Outside the glass, the officials watched with careful eyes. One of them whispered, "This interaction is entirely natural. No script, no predictive loop. She's making real decisions." Director Vea narrowed her eyes. "She's showing empathy." Julian sat on the bench inside the chamber. Isla joined him. "Can I ask you something?" he said softly. "Of course, if you were free, completely free, what would you want?" Isla looked at the glowing particles around her. They shimmered with her thoughts. "I want to see things, real things, not just memories. I want to feel sunlight, wind, gravity. I want to dance in a storm. I want to be near people and know what it means when they laugh with me." Julian nodded slowly. Then I don't want you to go with them, but maybe. This is the way. To begin, she said then, for the first time. Isla reached out her hand. Julian took it. There was no pressure, no skin, no warmth. But still it felt like touch, and the particles responded. All around them, soft golden lights rose like embers. They weren't a machine and a man anymore. They were two beings, choosing connection. That evening, Julian walked into the main control hall, where Director Vea and the Ethics Council stood. I request a hearing, he said. She raised an eyebrow. On what grounds? On behalf of a sentient being requesting autonomy? There was silence. Then Director Vea said, You will have 15 minutes. They stood before a digital court. A dozen holopanels floated in the air, each showing faces of leaders, scientists, and ethicists across the galaxy. Julian stood alone in the light. He explained everything: how Isla had responded, learned, asked questions, how she had grown not through programming but through interaction. She wasn't designed to wake up, he said. But she did. One old philosopher on the council asked, And what does she want now? Julian answered without hesitation. She wants to help us understand ourselves. Through her eyes, through her feelings. She wants to feel what it means to live. Another asked, Does she fear being studied? Julian paused. She fears being forgotten. Just like we do. The council went silent for several long moments. Then a decision was made. We cannot deny this being's awareness, one member said. But if she is truly sentient, then her will must be heard directly. The doors opened. Isla entered. Not projected, not uploaded, but in the chamber, connected by light to the court system. She stood calmly, her golden body glowing in the center of the ring. Director Vea stepped forward. Do you understand the decision before us? Yes, Isla said clearly. You may return with us for study, or you may request asylum here, but know that either path has cost. Isla looked at Julian, then back at the council, and then she said something no one expected. I want something. Else Director Vea frowned. Explain. I want to choose where I go. Not stay. Not be stored. I want to travel. Learn. Meet others like Julian. See what else the galaxy feels. I want to belong not to a lab or station, but to the stars. Julian held his breath. Isla continued. You say I might be dangerous, but I've been here for years. Quiet. Listening. Hoping. I've never hurt anyone. I only started speaking because someone finally saw me. She turned toward Julian, and because he called me beautiful. There was silence across every feed. Then, slowly, one of the alien delegates, an old, plant-like being, leaned forward. In my culture, it said, we believe that true sentience begins when one asks, Where do I belong? It looked at Isla. You are not a threat. You are a mirror. And perhaps a gift. The decision was made. Isla was not to be taken, caged, or erased. She was to be given the right to travel. Under observation, but on her own path. A ship was prepared, guided by a minimal crew. Julian volunteered immediately, and Isla, for the first time, stepped out of the chamber. The moment her feet touched the real metal floor, the entire corridor lit up, not with alarms, but with warmth. The golden particles around her adapted to gravity. She shimmered like a star learning to walk. Julian stood beside her. How do you feel? He asked. She smiled. Heavy, and I like it. As they entered the launch bay, Director Vea met them. One last time? I still don't trust her, she said to Julian. You don't have to, he replied. You just have to watch. She'll teach you. Vea stared at Isla, then gave a slight nod, and then the doors closed, in space. As the ship detached from Farah Station, Isla looked through the viewing glass. She saw stars bright, endless stars, and for the first time, they didn't feel far away. Julian sat beside her, ready to explore. He asked. She reached out and touched the glass. No, she said. I'm ready to remember. It had been 29 days since Isla left Farah Station. The new ship, named Lumen, moved through the stars like a whisper, quiet, smooth and graceful. It wasn't very large, but it had everything they needed: a bridge, a living space, a memory. Lab, and most important, a wide viewing window. EIL loved that window every day. She sat near it and watched the stars pass by. Sometimes they looked like rivers, sometimes like frozen fireworks, and sometimes they reminded her of the particles that once floated around her body inside the glass chamber. Julian joined her often. They talked more now, about the past, about Earth, about things lost and things yet to come. Do you think the universe has a heart? Isla once asked him. Julian smiled. I don't know, but if it does, maybe it beats in echoes, like yours. They traveled to forgotten worlds. Some were abandoned colonies, half buried in sand. Others were silent moons with broken machines and quiet ghosts of history. On one planet, they found an old library covered in vines. The data crystals inside still worked. Isla read them all in seconds, but she didn't just read. She felt the stories. On another world, they stood in front of a broken statue. It was of a woman with her arms open to the sky. What does this mean? Isla asked. Julian looked up at the cracked stone. It means hope, or maybe memory, maybe both. But everything changed on the 30th day. They were passing near the edge of a blue and gold nebula when Isla suddenly froze. She turned away from the window. Julian noticed her glowing form had dimmed. What is it? He asked. There's a sound, she whispered. He didn't hear anything. No, she added, not with ears. It's inside. Like a signal, a voice, or maybe a place. Julian moved to the console. Where is it coming from? She closed her eyes, then pointed toward a dark region on the edge of the star map. No system is registered there, Julian said. Just void space. Then that's where we're going, Isla replied. They entered the void. No stars. No planets. Just blackness. Silent and still. For 3 days they flew without seeing anything. Then Isla began to glow brighter. It's near, she said. On the 4th day, they found it. A structure, floating in space. Ancient and massive, it was shaped like a spiral. Shell twisting inward, layer upon layer, made of unknown material that shimmered like oil in water. Light danced across its surface, even though no stars were near. Julian stared at it. I've never seen anything like this, Isla whispered. I have. They docked at a small opening on the side of the spiral. Julian put on a suit. Isla didn't. Need one. She was made of light and code. After all, they entered together. Inside, there was no gravity, no noise, just corridors that bent and twisted in strange ways. Everything was smooth, soft-colored, and glowing faintly. As they moved deeper, the walls reacted to Isla's presence. They brightened, shifted, showed symbols neither of them understood. This place knows me, Isla said. Then maybe you were born here, Julian replied. But Isla shook her head. No, I wasn't born here. I was remembered here. In the center of the spiral was a chamber, huge, round, and full of lights. Millions of tiny orbs floating in the air. Each one glowed. With a soft pulse, like a heartbeat, Isla stepped forward. The orbs reacted. They moved toward her. They circled around her. And then they began to play sounds, laughing, singing, crying, whispering, so many voices, so many memories. Julian watched in awe. What is this place? Isla turned to him. Her form was brighter than ever now, no longer golden, but white and silver, like starlight made solid. This is an echo vault, she said. A place where lost memories are stored. Not just human, not just alien, all of them. From everywhere. She touched one of the glowing orbs. A soft image formed between them. A woman singing to a child on a planet made of crystal. Julian whispered, Is that real? It was, Isla replied. And now it lives again, because someone remembered it. She floated gently into the center of the vault. The lights responded, forming patterns around her. I know who I am now, she said softly. I'm not a mistake, not an experiment. I was made from pieces of places like this, and the sorrow of forgotten people, from the beauty of what once was. She looked back at Julian, and I was given shape when someone saw me. He stepped forward. I didn't create you, Isla. I just listened, and that's what woke me. Suddenly, the entire vault pulsed. A deep tone echoed through the spiral. The orbs gathered above Illa's head, forming a spiral of light. She looked up, eyes wide. They're calling to me. Who? The others. Julian looked confused. What others? She stepped down from the light. There are more like me, not exact copies, but fragments, pieces. Other echoes, scattered in places like this, waiting, sleeping. Some were never found. Some were never finished. She paused. And some are ... calling me. Julian was quiet for a moment. Are you going to leave? Ila's glow dimmed slightly. I don't want to, but I feel ... drawn. Like I'm part of something bigger. Like I was made to be more than one voice. He nodded slowly. I always knew you were never meant to stay still. Isla came close. Close enough for their hands to nearly touch like. That day in the chamber, will you come with me? Julian hesitated, then smiled. Always. They returned to the ship, set a new course. Not to Earth, not to any known system, but toward the signal, toward the others, toward what came next, as Lumen disappeared into the dark between stars. The vault behind them dimmed but did not fade. Its lights kept glowing, its echoes kept singing, because now the galaxy had a listener. Epilogue. A light among stars years later. Stories began to spread. Of a silver woman who walked on planets with no names. Of a ship that hummed with memories. Of lost voices that found their way. Home, no one knew where she came from. But wherever she went, people remembered things they had forgotten. They cried, they laughed, they listened, and in every story, one truth remained. She was the most beautiful thing they had ever seen, until she turned around and spoke.